and welcome to the Drive and Dish podcast with our man, Dynamite David, to do college basketball picks on January the 23rd, a big Saturday, a loaded Saturday, a souped-up Saturday. We get closer and closer to conference tournaments and March. Are you pumped up about the games today, Dynamite?
Yeah, I'm very excited. We've got a load of good games today, and I was debating about going and taking a run today. I might just have to stay home and do abs and push-ups or something, because I don't want to know if I don't want to leave the TV with all these great games about to start here in about 50 minutes.
Yeah. All right. So, sadly, we have to break down our records from the previous days. It was a dark Thursday for the Dynamite.
I had to hide yesterday because it was so bad Thursday.
Well, I think the games helped hide as well because they were pretty bad. I tried to make a list of them, and I got some picks in there. But all right, we'll go back to Thursday. The Dynamite had an 0-5, a tough day. I think the karma is still running over from that bad Kansas win. You should have just taken the Kansas loss and been through with it. All right, 0-5, Washington State plus 3.5 versus Utah was a loss. Iowa minus 9.5 versus Indiana was a loss. Wichita State plus 3.5 versus Memphis was a loss. Arizona minus 2.5, wins by 2. That's what kind of day it was for the Dynamite versus Arizona State was a loss. And Utah State minus 8.5 versus Colorado State was a loss. I went 3-3 overall. Merrimack minus 2.5 versus Fairleigh Dickinson was a win. Sacred Heart plus 1.5 versus St. Francis was a loss. Murray State minus 7.5 versus Jacksonville State was a loss. Arizona State plus 2.5 versus Arizona was a win. Weber State was minus 2.5 versus Southern Utah was a win. And Portland minus 3.5 versus Idaho State was a loss. And then on Friday, I had a 1-2 overall record. Quinnipiac versus Niagara was a loss. Wisconsin Green Bay minus 2.5 versus IUPUI Fort Wayne was a win. And UT Arlington minus 1.5 versus Arkansas Little Rock was a loss. Overall, 102, 86, and 1 on the year. Big slate today. So why don't you start us out, Dynamite? What do you got for the slate games today?
You know me, I like to pick the big games, the good games. You take those garbage teams that no one wants to watch on ESPN Plus. I'm going to take the big time games.
Let me tell you, Merrimack was flying the other day on ESPN Plus.
I'm going to start off with a good ACC matchup. I've got Syracuse minus 1.5 versus Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech is 55th in scoring defense. Syracuse is 53rd in scoring offense. Two different types of styles going up against each other, but Virginia Tech is 1-6 against the spread in the last 7 road games versus teams with a winning record. So I'm going to take Syracuse at home in the Carrier Dome minus 1.5 today. Next up, SEC matchup between Auburn and South Carolina. Auburn's getting 2.5 here. I like that. I'm going to take Auburn plus 2.5. Both of these teams are struggling recently, with Auburn losing 5 of their last 7, and South Carolina's lost 2 in a row, and they had some games postponed due to COVID. But Auburn's offense has improved greatly since Sharif Cooper's debut against Alabama. He's averaging 22.5 and 8 assists per game, and I like the way that they're finding their offense, and I think that'll help them win against South Carolina today. And I love the fact they're getting 2.5 here, despite the fact they're on the road. And also, South Carolina is only shooting 60% from the free throw line. I think that's going to hurt them as well. Now I've got my favorite conference, big matchup in the Big Ten. I'm going to go with Minnesota minus 6.5 versus Maryland. The Golden Gophers are undefeated at home this year, and they most recently blew out a top 10 Michigan team in Minnesota. And Maryland's struggling lately, and they're 1-4 against the spread in their last 5. So I'm going to take the mojo that Minnesota's gotten going at home, and they're going to win big, covering the 6.5 versus Maryland tonight. We're going to stay in the Big Ten. I've got Wisconsin minus 4.5 versus Ohio State. The Badgers are 5th in defensive efficiency, according to KenPom. And Ohio State's offense has been a little too one-dimensional, in my opinion. They're very reliant on the three-pointer. And while they've hit them a lot, they hit 14 against Purdue. And if they hadn't done that, that game would have been even more of a blowout. But they lost that game to Purdue. And I just think that this is a terrible matchup for Ohio State, as Wisconsin's holding opponents at home to 38% shooting and only 58 points per game. So I think Wisconsin's D is going to really step up and dominate Ohio State, and they'll score enough to win and cover the 4.5. Next up, I've got Arkansas minus 7.5 at Vanderbilt. Arkansas struggles on the road, but Vanderbilt is a terrible team defensively, especially as of late. As in their last 4, they're allowing 83 points per game. While Arkansas is one of the best in the country at scoring the ball, they're 13th in the country in scoring, averaging 84.5 per game. So despite Arkansas's road struggles, I'm going to take them in a big win against Vanderbilt tonight, covering the minus 7.5. Go stay in the SEC. Georgia plus 4.5 at home versus Florida. Florida's feeling really good after a big upset win against Tennessee, but this Georgia team's been playing pretty well recently, and they've won 2 straight against Ole Miss and Kentucky. Freshman KD Johnson is playing very well. In his first 3 games, he's averaging 15 points per game, and I like Georgia at home tonight, getting 4.5.
All right, you're going Tom Crean heavy this week.
I got one more. I'm gonna just because I want to get some action in this game. I'm gonna take the over 131.5 in the Missouri-Tennessee game. Tennessee is going to be looking to bounce back after that terrible loss, and Missouri is going to be looking to avenge their loss to Tennessee earlier in the season by 20. All the trends say this is going to be a low-scoring defensive game. That's why this point total is so low. But I think the pace of this game is going to be very fast. Could be a lot of turnovers in this game, and I think it's going to be an up and down game, and they go over that 131.5.
That's a good idea. Wipe that 49-point game from earlier in the week out of your memory. All right, so that's the Dynamite's picks. We actually only cross over on one pick today, so that's something. I have Vanderbilt plus the 7.5 versus Arkansas. You mentioned Arkansas's terrible road record, so I'm just writing that trend continues and going to ride Vanderbilt, even though they are a awful team. Scottie Pippen Jr. is good, so I'm hoping Scottie Pippen Jr. can carry them to at least cover that 7.5 points, and hopefully Arkansas's road struggles continue. But we'll start out first with probably my most shaky pick. We're going with Temple plus the 10.5 versus Houston. I should be getting a couple more points here, but I'm going to ride it. Houston going on the road to Philadelphia for a early afternoon game, so I think they might come out of the gates struggling a little bit. Temple's been a little spunky of late. Good wins versus UCF, and I guess we'll call Tulane a good win, but the UCF win, pretty solid win. So maybe Temple at home can cover the 10.5, though I think they're shortchanging me a little bit on points in the 10.5 here. Next, we'll stay in the Northeast, and we'll go with New Hampshire minus 2.5 versus Albany. We really like the New Hampshire pick here. They are 6-5, coming off back-to-back wins versus Stony Brook. Albany about the same level as Stony Brook, so we think New Hampshire will be able to roll at home today versus Albany. Albany's been a bit of a bugaboo team for me all year long. I haven't been able to predict their games. Hopefully New Hampshire can come away with a win here. Next up, we're going to stay in the Northeast and the Patriot League. We're riding Lafayette minus 6.5 versus Boston. Really like Lafayette. They're the class of the Patriot League. Other than an opening day loss to Lehigh, they've won all their games and pretty much been dominant in most of their games. Boston University is a pretty weak Patriot League team, probably the worst Patriot League team. So we look for Lafayette to roll today at home versus Boston University and cover that 6.5. Next up, we have St. John's minus 15.5 versus Utah Valley. Now, I'm not one to jump on big spreads, but I like the way St. John's has been playing. A nice win versus UConn in the middle of the week. I believe the Dynamite had that pick. Don't really understand why Utah Valley is going there other than to collect a fat paycheck. So I look for St. John's to beat up on them pretty good and cover that 15.5. So that's just a weird game that seemed like an outlier, and I figure St. John's will roll up the score and win that one pretty good. Next up, we're going to the West Coast, St. Mary's plus 3.5 versus San Francisco. This is actually a really good game. San Francisco has been a very good team in the West Coast Conference this year, probably better than St. Mary's, but I just look for St. Mary's pedigree to win out here. They have struggled a little bit of late, but I just the 3.5 seemed like a little bit too much of a bump. I just think St. Mary's is a better team than San Francisco, but this should be a really, really good game. And lastly, we're going back to the Northeast, and we're going to take two teams I took during the week. St. Bonaventures -5.5 versus Duquesne. Really love the way St. Bonaventures is playing. Other than maybe Creighton, I think St. Bonaventures has been really, really good so far this year. Other than a Rhode Island loss, been cruising along. Duquesne's finally starting to play okay, but I just really like the way St. Bonaventures is playing, and I look for them to dominate today versus the Duquesne Dukes. So St. Bonaventures -5.5. Those are my picks on the day. Temple +10.5, Vanderbilt +7.5, New Hampshire -2.5, Lafayette -6.5, St. John's -15.5, St. Mary's +3.5, and St. Bonaventures -5.5. Be sure to follow all our podcasts on the greenlightnetwork.org, our Facebook page, Greenlight Network, our YouTube channel, Greenlight Network. And where can we find you, Dynamite?
Follow me on Twitter at GLN_D.
All right. And you can find me, GLN Champ 5, on Twitter and Instagram. That's our show, and we're out.